Hello and welcome to another Unscripted Thoughts video. This time around I'm going to be talking about 4 movies, 3 more in-depth than the 4th one, but so if you guys didn't know, Netflix just finished up a trilogy of horror movies based on R.L. Stine books. They were the Fear Street Trilogy, Fear Street 1994, 1978 I believe, and then 1666. So they all took place in different time periods, but it revolved around the same characters, the same town, and I was looking forward to this little experiment Netflix was doing, and I couldn't really write formal reviews for each of them just because they are very similar, and I would just be saying the same thing over and over again pretty much. So the first movie I'll be talking about, 1994, will definitely be a lot more scripted than the other two. But, that's just why this review might be a little messy, a little off, a little unscripted, as that it is. So, here is my reviews for all 3 of the Fear Street trilogy, and the Tomorrow War at the end. We'll get to that. Going into this trilogy, I really didn't know what to expect. While I was very intrigued by the idea of an R-rated, based off R.L. Stine books, horror trilogy, that was all I could base my opinion off of. I was not familiar with Lee Janik's other work, and details of the plot were at a minimum. So I went into this movie pretty much completely blind. And honestly, I was mostly okay with that. Going into this movie blind made it an overall better experience. Just to clarify, I am talking about the first Fear Street. I didn't mention that. I'm talking about Fear Street, 1994. This is the one I'm talking about now. Okay. However, even though I did enjoy this film, I can't say I share the same opinion about it as everyone else I've talked to. The movie isn't some masterpiece in horror cinema or hidden gem like so many other people are claiming it to be. It really didn't stand out amongst the pack when it comes to slasher horror movies. The characters were all annoying and not very likable besides the little brother, who's considerably more charming and relatable than the rest of the cast. Fear Street Part 1 also simultaneously fails at capturing the time period while being a decent 90s horror homage. The 90s setting is really underutilized and feels very half-baked, especially the song choices being extremely on the nose. However, its final act and overall premise does harken back to the movies like I Know What You Did Last Summer or Urban Legend. Even though those aren't the best horror movies to harken back to, it very much fits the tone of the movie. So even if I can't quite call it a positive, Part 1's tone isn't overly awful either. The movie style visually really works for me here as well. Lee Janik definitely has a distinct way of setting up shots and using color in a way that is very appealing. Knowing when a scene needs to be dark and intense or when it needs to be thrilling and colorful. She really understands the visual side of horror filmmaking, and honestly, I'm pretty excited for her future projects. Part 1's major flaw to me is easily the dialogue. Each character is written in a way that almost reached Riverdale, CW type show levels of terrible. Fortunately, in hindsight, Lee Janik's writing does get better with each of the movies in the trilogy, but it is borderline unbearable in this movie. Many characters belting out exposition or catchphrases like their life depends on it. Normally, with more generic slasher movies like this, I would try not to pay too much attention to this sort of thing, but it was way too noticeably bad here, not to mention easily the movie's weakest point. What really pushed Part 1 into the realm of me enjoying it was its third act, though. Up to that point, I was kind of enjoying myself, with it being an unoffensive but still mostly entertaining slasher, with at the very least an interesting cast of characters. But nothing was standing out to me as being exceptional. And then the narrative about the curse the witch had on the town unraveling, the tension ramping up to 11, the kills being utterly gruesome and shocking from a narrative standpoint, and the ambiguous ending leaving me wanting more is the best way this third act could have panned out. Even if it was a bit of a bumpy ride getting there, Part 1 was a mostly enjoyable slasher that gave me hope for the rest of the trilogy. Honestly, I did kind of sour on this movie a little bit. The more generic screenwriting tropes that are in this movie, the very obnoxious performances, just kind of grate on you throughout the first 2 acts of this movie, and the underutilization of the 90s setting really, really bogs this movie down. It's not a terrible film. I do still kind of like it, but for me, Fear Street Part 1 gets a B-. Now we're going to talk about Fear Street Part 2, 1978. After feeling a little disappointed in the first of this Netflix horror trilogy, my hopes had been a little shot going into the second film. Even if I had heard this movie was better than the first, I was still left feeling a little doubtful heading into it, seeing how kind of mixed I was on Part 1. However, this movie is a significant step up in enjoyment and quality. The scares are better. The overall atmosphere of the movie is so much better. Even the direction and kind of like color grading and visual side of the movie is a major step up as well. I very much enjoyed 1978. This is definitely feeling more of that like hidden gemness that a lot of people were talking about. I don't know, I just feel like this is the kind of movie that would have been swept under the rug if it wasn't part of this big Netflix trilogy, and that I would have randomly watched one time and really would have recommended to somebody. It's not the best thing I've ever seen. It's definitely not going to end up anywhere near my best of the year list, but I was very, very surprised with how well made of a 70s slasher this movie is. Like I was saying, it has much better scares, much better storytelling, better characters. Visuals were really solid here. That's a major step up that I think this movie has over the first one, is the characters and the performances. Yes, they're still not great. I wouldn't say they're still not like going to win any Oscars or anything like that. They're still not like terrific acting performances. However, I do believe that they are a definite step up from the last movie. It does suffer from the same not so great dialogue here. The script is pretty weak. Easily, again, this film's weakest point. It's just, I don't know. I don't think Lee Janik is more of like a screenwriter than she is a director. She's a really good director. I will give her that. The visual aspect of this movie, the color grading, the style, just the overall feeling of this movie is very much, I feel like, her style and her doing, and it's great. I love it. But the script is really needs to, I don't know. I feel like she needs a writing partner, because the storytelling aspects of this movie and the actual plot of the movie is pretty good. I thought it was intriguing. I thought the mystery behind everything was great. I thought how brutal this movie can get with all the kills and how dark it can be is really fantastic. And I thought the relationship between Ziggy and her older sister is really great. But I don't know, the dialogue once again here is just really not great and really brings down the movie for me. I don't know. I don't know why it bothers me so much, because it's bad. It's not good dialogue. It's that weird, like, I don't know, very tropey, very campy style of Riverdale. I don't know why it's giving me so much Riverdale-ness in my head that I don't know. I can't get into it. And it's again, the movie's weakest point. Part 2 also is a little bit of a forgettable slasher. Like, it's good. It's very solid for what it is. It's a very fun, entertaining, well-told slasher with some really great visuals and really good characters, but it never clears the bar of that. It never goes above and beyond. So for that, like, I did enjoy it. I did really like my time with this movie, but overall, I'm just going to give it a strong B. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't great. And then the third and final part, Fear Street Part 3, 1666. So the trailers for this one really had me and Cam excited. We watched the previous two together and really enjoyed the second one, like I was saying, and we were just both really excited. For me, each movie so far had been a step up from the last in terms of quality, and this one was seemingly no different. The trailers were making it look really good. It had a really like finality to it. It seemed like a part 3. This seemed like the movie that Janik really wanted to make. This seemed like the other two definitely were very much set up and did not have satisfying conclusions, but this one definitely seemed like the movie she wanted to make, and I feel like it's very obvious because for me it's the best one. It's the best well made, most entertaining, and the one I enjoy the most. So it's clearly the best one out of the trilogy. The colonialism, very bleak, witchy tone of the movie is nailed to perfection for me. Yes, a lot of people are going to compare it to The Witch from, I think, 2015, 2016, that movie came out. However, to me, that's a very unfair comparison. Just because they are in the same genre doesn't mean they are the same movie. But I don't know, I feel like the tone, there's way more serious tone that this movie takes, the more bleak atmosphere, just, I don't know, really works for me. And the performances were even significantly better, even if it was a weird choice to have some of the same actors play different characters. I don't know, I thought that was a little weird. I do understand Dina playing Sarah Fear. I understand that part. I get why that they made that decision, but everything else, I don't know. I thought it was a little weird and a bit of a lazy choice. I don't know if it has something to do with budget, it has something to do with like a creative decision, but I don't know. I think that was the wrong choice. However, this movie gets really dark in some places, and it absolutely works. The scares here, the visual side of this movie is so much better than the other ones. It's less like brutal and gruesome kills, and it's more like disturbing and like really sits with you longer than the other two movies. And I think it's a major plus in this movie's favor. Also, the romance between the two lead characters, I'm not going to spoil who they are just because that is a twist in the first movie. It is a twist who they are, and I think that twist is really well done. So I'm not going to spoil that for you here. I'm just going to say it is a really good representation of people who don't get represented in horror movies a lot, if that makes sense. It doesn't come off as patronizing or performative at all. It comes off as real and genuine, and I think that is a real plus for this trilogy. It's the one consistently great thing throughout this trilogy is like the representation and the, I don't know, not making it seem super over-performative, but the representation in this movie doesn't feel, like I was saying, doesn't feel over-performative. It doesn't feel, I don't know, disingenuous. This just feels like a horror movie made about real people who just happen to be from a group of people that don't get represented in horror movies very well. I don't know if I phrased that correctly, but it just feels like a story about real, genuine people. And I don't know, that was really nice to see in this film. It's one of the most consistently good things throughout this trilogy. Also, the twist at the end of the movie was really great. Again, not going to spoil it here just because I do want you to experience it for yourself. But it worked really well. It wasn't the most shocking thing in the world. I kind of pieced it together once it was happening. But it does really work for this trilogy, I think. And it really gives a nice conclusion and finality to this entire trilogy. However, once again, the dialogue in this movie is not good. It's better than the first two movies, I will give it that, but man, it's not that much better. It really is not. I hate to keep giving the director and writer Lee Janik crap for this. I don't want to keep giving her crap for this, but to me, she needs a writing partner. She needs someone to write her dialogue for her. Like I think I already mentioned this earlier, but yeah, it's not good dialogue, and it really hampers this movie for me because honestly, this would have been an end of the year candidate. It would have been an easy A- if the dialogue just was not so noticeably bad, but it was, and so for that, I'm going to give Fear Street Part 3, 1666 a B+. So overall, I enjoyed the Fear Street trilogy. It wasn't great. I cannot say that. It wasn't like this. None of them will end up on my best of the year, I don't think. They did get progressively better. I really liked the second and third one, or I liked the second one, and I really liked the third one. So overall, I really enjoyed these movies. They're very entertaining, very fun, and just a pretty good trilogy. I'm glad they exist, even though they might not be my favorite thing ever. And now I'm going to quickly talk about the Tomorrow Wars, just because that came out the same day that Fear Street Trilogy came out in July. It's just a super hectic month. I did end up watching this movie. Just want to quickly talk about it real quick. Jesus Christ. Yeah, sorry, these unscripted reviews are a little bit of a mess. That's kind of like the point. I don't want them to be structured. I kind of just want them to be a conversation, me talking about a movie, not really formally. So anyway, I was not really looking forward to this movie until I saw a trailer for it in the movie theater when I saw Black Widow. So, I don't know, it really sold me on the movie. It looked really fun. Chris Pratt, I'm not a huge fan of his, but I mean, he seemed fine in the trailer. He seemed fine for the role. It seemed like a very fun but derivative action movie. And that's kind of what it was. It wasn't terrible. I cannot say that it was bad. I enjoyed a decent amount of it. The action sequences were pretty entertaining, easily the best part of the movie. It was highly entertaining throughout the first half. The aliens are pretty menacing, even if the CGI isn't the best. I feel like their overall design and them as characters are really great. Chris Pratt's performance was very mixed for me. He could be kind of charming, but he could also be distractingly, kind of hilariously bad. he smolders a lot in this movie, and it's really distracting. It's really like, what are you doing? But then other times he can be genuinely charming. What else? The script, the pacing, and editing are pretty much every story, and every storytelling aspect of the movie is not great. It really is not good at all. And this movie just goes on and on and on. Like, if it ended at the hour 45 minute, hour 50 mark, I would have really liked this movie. It would have been like a B. I would have said, it was really stupid, but I enjoyed it. But man, it just kept going and going and going and had like 8 endings. This movie went on forever and kind of ruined it for me. So, Tomorrow War, not the worst movie out there, not the most entertaining, kind of just sitting at that a little bit of middle ground, very mediocre. I'm going to give it a C+. Okay, so that's it for this installment of Unscripted Thoughts. Yes, it's a little bit of a mess, but that's kind of the point. I like just sometimes, this isn't going to be an all-the-time thing, just sometimes talking about movies instead of formally writing out my thoughts, just kind of rambling on and on. So let me know if you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.